Hey folks, welcome back to the Edupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. And today again we'll continue with the Professional Ethics by the Chartered Accountant Act 1949. So, in the previous lectures we have been continuing with the clause 7, right? We have discussed the various points that has been provided by the institute in its knowledge base. Right? We have discussed almost all the points. I think I should delete the word almost. We have discussed all the points given by the institute. Right? You just have to keep that in mind. But now there are certain other guidelines that has been provided by the council. Right? So now we'll see what those guidelines are and what is the outcome of that. So our entire lecture for today will be based on those guidelines that has been provided by the institute for this specific clause 7 of part 1 of the first schedule. Right? So basically we categorize the clauses in these parts: the text of the clause, then the basic points that relates to the text, then some of the guidelines provided by the council, and at the last some of the decisions already taken. Right? So all the big clauses that we have, you will see, are divided into these parts. Like clause number 6 was also divided into certain categories. Right? And similarly clause number 8 will also be divided. So we'll go ahead in the same format. Right? Like if you remember the standards that we discussed, we had the application, we had the requirements. Right? Everything is systemized. When the institute comes up with things, they are always systemized. They follow a format. And I know most of you fail to recognize these. And you read the text and you say it's done. But what about the points after that? What about the specific guidelines given? What about the case studies? We fail to do that. Trust me, most of you who have already been through professional ethics may see the difference now. Right? And if you actually see the difference, please feel free to use the comment box below and to let other people also know that yeah, we are going at some different level. And when I say at a different level, that does not mean we are at a different level from the institute. No, we are actually going parallel to the institute, but at the next level to all the teachers around. Right? I don't say they are right or they are wrong, but it's the difference that I'm talking about. Difference in their and my teaching. So if you actually feel it, please use the comment box below and share it as much as you can. Okay? So now we continue with the council's guideline over here. So the first guideline that we see is that the members may advertise through write-ups. Now what are write-ups is the key thing to understand. So a write-up is basically any article that you get it published somewhere. Like maybe in a journal, at any place, in a magazine or something, but it is just the mere text to the point without any specific advertisement. You just pass on an information. That is a write-up. If you look at the Google meaning, then write-up, it's a noun. A written account, in particular a newspaper article giving an opinion or review of an event, performance or product. Right? It is just giving your view. So you can get it published anywhere. Right? It is your opinion, your view. You want to let others know what you think of it. Right? That is the general dictionary meaning. But when we talk about write-up for our profession, it is just that you give a mention somewhere. Yeah, this is the firm, these are the kind of services we provide, and this is it. We are the partners. It is not an advertisement to be circulated all around. But if you have an institute journal for that purpose, an institute allows certain kinds of write-up, then those kinds of write-up can be given. Right? There's no problem with that. So you should know what should be the content of the write-up. It should be fair. Do not go ahead by soliciting client over there. Right? Mere statement, mere information to the point about your firm, about you. That's it. Right? That is the write-up. So if they allow you to go through a write-up, then always make sure that the other points that we have already discussed will still be in place. They will still be in place. Right? No extravagant advertisements required over there. A simple write-up, a simple article. Right? Now it can also mean that there's an event or there is a point on which you give your opinion. So you write that paragraph about your opinion and then write it below. This is given by this chartered accountant. Your name and your designation, that is it. That is a good advertisement for yourself. But understand, do not solicit clients by that. Getting the difference? You're not allowed to solicit clients. When we say you can advertise, advertise yourself. Got it? Clear with that? Next, the institute goes on to specify on the point of using the signboard. The institute says you are supposed to use an appropriate signboard. Now, when the institute says that you use an appropriate signboard, what comes to your mind? What is an appropriate signboard? Right? If you would have gone to your firms, or if you would have paid a visit to any firm of chartered accountants, you would have seen a wooden or a metal signboard in front with in italics or any font they have just written this chartered accounting firm, and then one statement in below. That's it. Or the address below the line, right? That is all. Now, what is an appropriateness? Somebody may use a dark brown color signboard, some may use a light brown color signboard, some may use a black signboard with white letters on it, some may use a white signboard with black letters on it. All these things are allowed. Some may use a wooden signboard, a stone signboard, metal signboard, whatever. These are allowed, no problem with that. But when we say use appropriate signboard, then understand, if you would have seen Las Vegas in the movies, or some of you, if you have paid a visit to that place, like people in Delhi, if you're in Delhi and you're going to the airport area, right, over there you see Mahipalpur on the left, you have signboards over there. You have places in your cities where you go and you see those flashy lights, right? There are hotels and the motels over there, and the restaurants, some traders, they have their flashy signboards with lights and electricity board displays on it, all those kind of things. You know why do they do that? So that any person coming that way, when they have a lot of hotels over there, what they do is they want you to see their hotel. So they will have a full building length signboard, the name of the hotel with classy flashy lights, so that it attracts your eye and you don't even see the hotel next to you and you come following the signboard. That is the purpose for those kinds of signboard. Do you think a chartered accountant needs those kind of a signboard? The answer to it is no. We will never need those kinds of a signboard, right? Because our clients are not just walking on the way and then looking for a chartered accountant firm and comes in, right? We don't sell ourselves that way. We have a reputation, we have a dignity, we have an entire agenda of working, right? People just don't go with their documents and looking for CAs and, yeah, I found a CA, please file my return. No, that's not the way. We are not like that notary guys sitting outside the court, 10 in line, and you just go and they call you, yeah, come, what do you want? A rent agreement? You want this, you want that? No, we are not that. Understand the dignity of the profession. So your signboard should be sleek and simple, just displaying the information required. No flashy signboards to catch the eye. The size of the signboard, when we talk about the size of the signboard, you can have it from say 1 foot to 2 foot to 1 meter, whatever, but it should not be like 10-meter signboard. No, it should be an appropriate thing, man. Come on, in front of your office, just to display the information, not to attract the client, right? So you should not be using glow signs, no lights, and no huge signboards. It should be elegant and simple, right? Now you can also use a signboard in front of your residence, which is a name board we say, right? You can place a name board at your residence, but remember, you can use it only with your name and the designation that, yeah, Mr. So-and-so stays over here, he's a chartered accountant, that's it. That means it's XYZ chartered accountant. That is the only name board you can have in front of your residence. Don't say XYZ XYZ associates and chartered accountants. No, you should not write the name of your firm, because all the partners are not staying there, all the employees are not staying there. You don't operate out of that place, right? If somebody sees the name of the firm, they enter it thinking it's a firm. Your house, my dear friend, is not a firm. right? Do not advertise your house to be your firm. That is your house. If it's you, take pride and say it's my house. It's not the firm's house. You owned it, you earned it, right? So the name of the firm should be displayed only at your office and not at your residence. That is another thing that we should keep in mind while designing and printing the name boards. Clear? That is a guideline from the institute. Next, be careful about the content in the prospectus. Okay, now this is one topic we need to discuss. Now these days what happens is, if you see, then a lot of companies, the private limited companies and the other companies, they have invited and listed chartered accountants on their board. They involve chartered accountants on their board, right? So any person who is not in practice, right, he's a chartered accountant but not in practice, can very well go ahead with it. No problem at all for him. He has qualified his chartered accountancy examinations, received his certificate, done his GMCS and stuff. You can go and be a director at any company you want. But if you are in practice, right, and then you are invited to be a director in any company, you feel proud, right? You go there, you join in as a director because even they need. Now what happens is a new company is coming up, right? So what do is, initially when they lay out their prospectus and they have a chartered accountant on board, they generally tend to publicize you. They generally lay more stress on your name. That yeah, in our board of directors we also have a chartered accountant, means the legalities are taken care of, boss. Please, please make a note, we have a chartered accountant over here. So there can be n number of reasons, but when you have directors in your company and when you have prospectus rolled out, then detailed description of the director is given, right? So you being a chartered accountant, your name is also highlighted. They say Mr. XYZ, chartered accountant, having expertise in these fields, 20 years of experience over here, over there, and all those things, right? Then they go on with all the good things you have, the awards you have received, the forums you have attended, and lot of things. So understand, what are they doing is, when they are rolling out prospectus, they are basically inviting the investors, right? Now if I am an investor, which company would I choose? A company that I feel and I know is gonna be stable, right? And if I know that there's a chartered accountant in a company, we know that the legals are very well taken care of. The maintenance of accounts and everything will be very well done. So they go on to an extent, your firm, your client age and all of things, they may mention anything over there, right? About your expertise, your specialization, your knowledge. They add appellations and adjectives to your name and stuff. Then at that point of time, your attention has to be brought to the clause number 7, that these things are not allowed. You cannot say that I am just a director over there, I did not prepare the prospectus, someone else did. No, it is your responsibility to go and inform them before they print the prospectus, that listen bro, these are the limitations I have, right? So when you get any write-up prepared for me to be posted in the prospectus, please get it checked by me. When I say me, I'm a chartered accountant, right? Please get it checked by me. What are you writing about me? I should be knowing it, and just only after my approval you should go ahead with it, right? So if you want that any communication made by the company to the public, whether by way of prospectus or any other communication, any other document rolling out, should not contravene any of the clause of professional ethics, right? Then what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to take care of it, that there is no advertisement of your professional attainment of the firm that you work in, right? They should not directly or indirectly in any way amount to solicitation of client for you, because when the company is making efforts for what? For getting their investors, for getting people in place for their company, that indirectly also tends to make an advertisement for you. There also tends to solicit clients for you, right? So understand, it is difficult for the institute to lay down specific rules and rigid rules for this. That yeah, this is allowed, this is not allowed, this is allowed, this is not allowed. We cannot go ahead with that thing for each and everything, right? So what they want, the institute wants, is that you as a chartered accountant, you should use your good judgment, because you know the clauses, right? You are aware of what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. You are aware of the crux that you are not supposed to make advertisement that would solicit client for you. So if you think that the company is going ahead with such kind of a step, please stop. Right? Always tell them that take an approval from you when they go ahead for publishing something on your behalf. Right? So depending upon the fact and circumstance of each case, you have to be consistent, you have to be compliant with it, right? You have to be ensuring that the clauses and the provisions are complied with, both in letters and in spirit, right? So it is advisable for you that before those prospectus are issued, right, you should ask them to take an approval from you, go through what they're writing for you, right? Now, some specific things that the institute has provided that you should be careful with is like, yes, you can use your name, your designation. They can say that, yeah, we have a chartered accountant on board. But they should not be going ahead with describing your expertise, your field of specialization, the knowledge base you have, right? And using some adjectives and affiliations with your name. They should not be doing that, right? But yeah, if you are a director in different companies and they want to say that yeah, he's also a director in this big company and he's the common director over here, so understand the parameter of our company, so allow them to do it. Because if they are advertising that you are a director in some company, that does not mean they are bringing clients to you, because people in general will not know you are practicing. They may know you are a director in some other company, so they will not come to you for practice, right, for their work to be done. So that is allowed. So if you are a director in 2 more companies, the name of those companies can be placed, but remember, your partnership in any firm or 1 or 2 firms, the name of those firms cannot be placed. So do you understand the difference? If you are a director, your name can be placed. Why? Because it does not tend to solicit client. But if you are a partner of a firm, your name cannot be, or your firm's name cannot be displayed, because that will result to solicitation of client. Right? So the last statement, do not advertise your professional attainments in those prospectus and communications that are being made to the public in general by the company. Are you clear with that? That is all about these guidelines, right? We have one more guideline, if I would say, that is specified by the institute, that is based on the logos to be used. And if you remember, we have talked about these logo concept when we were discussing the website. So in the next lecture, you know that if we are done with the guidelines, we will be heading towards the decisions taken by the council and the High Court, right? So those decisions for this clause is not very huge. We have on the fingertips 3-4 decisions that we need to discuss. So we'll take over the matter of this logo, right? I'll give you the brief history of what happened and when it happened and what was allowed and what is now prohibited and everything, and then we'll move ahead with the decisions in the next lecture. Are you okay with it? So until then, allow me, this is Abhinav Gupta signing off. Thank you and bye-bye. I'll see you guys back in the next lecture, and that will be the last lecture for clause 7, and then we'll head towards the clause number 8. Okay, so I'll see you guys back in the next lecture. Until then, bye-bye.